Jesus calls us friend. Like a good friend, he listens and loves. We can be close to our Creator. God wants us to be near him. We can know what's on his heart and share our hearts with him. Friendship is a precious gift to receive. Someone who knows everything about us and loves us just the same. Someone who sees us in our weakest moments and chooses to remain. Someone who sees the struggle and prays us through. Friendship is a beautiful gift to give, in the moments that matter most and the moments that seem small, in the moments filled with joy and the ones when hope seems lost. There is beauty in declaring and believing for better things. There is strength in holding each other accountable. Friendship is a reflection of God's love for us. Sweet friendships refresh the soul and awaken our hearts with joy.
I think tonight is really important for you guys and your future and your relationships. And as I think back over my personal friendships, relationships, and the people that have been able to have influence in my life, I wish I had taken what we are going to talk about tonight more seriously. So last week we started this series about friendships. And not last week, 2 weeks ago. It's so good to be back after a week off. But 2 weeks ago, we started this series about friendships and relationships. And the big question this month is simply this: how do we intentionally develop healthy relationships, healthy friendships in our lives? How do we do that intentionally? How do we move through this life? And it's not like this haphazard thing where people come into our lives and are like, oh, you're there, so I guess I'll be friends with you. But we're more intentional about who has influence and who affects us and who directs and guides us. Because if we're honest, our friends have an impact on our lives. And if we can be intentional about that, then we can decide for ourselves who has influence. Last week we talked about this circle of friendships. And we had the big circles, and then we had smaller circles inside of it. And this is the way that Jesus developed relationships with the people around him. And he would invite people in closer to his inner circle. And with each invitation in closer, he was allowed to be more vulnerable with those people. He was more influential in their lives, and they were more influential in his life. And so here's what I want to communicate about this, because so often when we talk about friendships, we say, you got to cut out the bad friends. You got to get rid of the bad friends. I don't like that language, because it's not so much about cutting people out. It's about being intentional about inviting people in closer where you are more vulnerable with each other in a safe space. It's not about cutting people out. It's being intentional about who you invite in to that safe space close to you where you can be vulnerable with each other. And so tonight, I just want to look at this whole idea of how do we do that? How do we manage these friendship circles that we have? We've got this outer circle of people that are just around us, and what do we do with that? And the first thing that we have to do, and this is kind of an ongoing thing, like this is one of those steps that every step along the way, this is something we should be doing and we should be working on, and that's this: understand yourself and your emotions. Understand yourself and your emotions. What do you love about yourself? What are you passionate about? What makes you you? What about your emotions? Did you know, and I'm reading this book right now with our Sunday school class, fantastic book called Rebecoming, and it's all about becoming the person that God created you to be. Super book. But one of the things that they said is that God created us as humans so that everything that we take into our minds, So everything we see, everything we hear, everything that comes into us goes through the emotional center of our brain first. And that's because we were created to be able to weed out things emotionally that may be dangerous for us so that we can survive. It's a good thing. And so often the language of today is, well, you're being too emotional. God created our emotions to be good tools, to not only help us evaluate and know dangerous and threatening situations, but also to help us work through the difficult times in our lives when we may be struggling. And so I want to encourage you guys, maybe you've heard that message, like, you're being too emotional, you need to get rid of your emotions. No, what we need to do is we need to understand our emotions. We need to know what makes us tick. We need to know what we're passionate about. We need to know what makes our hearts hurt. We need to know what we absolutely love doing and brings us joy. That is the way that God designed us and created us. And knowing yourself, knowing your emotions, living your emotions will allow you to gather people around you that are similar and that are headed the same direction and that value you and your emotions as much as God values you and your emotions. And so that's the first thing that we've got to work on, and that's something that you should work on, and I will continue to work on for the rest of my life. Who is CJ? Who is Elise? Who is Gunnar? Who is Sadie? Who is Peyton? Who's Sophie? Who's Angelina? Answering that question truthfully and honestly and knowing what makes us us. Maybe you've never thought about that. And maybe you've never thought about how that impacts friendships and relationships. And maybe for a long time, you've just been trying to be who other people say you should be. Your parents say you should be like this. Your friends say you should be like this. The media says you should be like this. The songs say that you should be like this. Who are you? Who did God create you to be? That's a question we should be answering the rest of our lives. And as we begin to understand ourselves, we can begin to look at these circles. All right, now, so you are right here. You are in the center of this circle. Now, the nice thing about friendship circles is that with every friendship circle that gets closer to you, you are inviting people in that you will be able to influence more and that will have more influence on you. And with every friendship circle that gets closer, there should be another layer of protection for yourself. You are here in the center. You should be protected in your relationships. You should be safe in your friendships. You should have people around you and closest to you that love you and care about you and want the best for you. And so with every friendship circle that gets closer, the more you invite people in, there should be a level of protection for yourself. And so how do we start? How do we start with this outside circle? This outside circle is everybody that's around us, acquaintances, people that we go to school with, people that we work with, people that are in our clubs, people that are on our sports teams, the people that are around us day in and day out. And the first step in this outside circle is simply this: observe how people behave. Observe how people behave. Now, this is not the people that we're close to. This is just the people that we see on a daily basis. And when we start to observe how people behave, when we start to see people that treat others the way that we want to be treated, when we start to see people that care about others, that care about us, when we start to see people that are maybe passionate about the same things that we're passionate about, that love the same things that we love, we can begin to invite them in to this next circle. The people that we invite into this next circle are people that are not going to drag us down, people that will make us a better person, people that are fun to be around, people that care about the things that we care about. Now, here's the beauty of this, all right? There's people in this outer circle, you're not cutting them out. People in this outer circle that don't behave in ways that you disagree with, you don't have to go to that person and be like, hey, buddy, listen, you don't behave in ways that I agree with. Like, you did this, so like you're staying on the outside circle. No, we don't do that. We still love these people in the outside circle. We still care about these people that are on the outside circle. We still say hi, we're still kind, we still express Jesus' love. But we set up intentional moments of space so they have less influence in our lives. This outer group of people are not people that we're going to call out and be like, dude, you're doing this all wrong. But they're also not people that I'm going to invite to hang out with me on a Friday night. When I see them in the hallway, yeah, say hi to them, ask them how they're doing, talk to them, be kind to them, love them, but they're going to stay on my outside circle. I'm going to maintain that distance, maintain that space. When I was in high school, Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released in theaters. I was beyond excited. You guys, I was so pumped about this. Now, I know this is a really old movie because it came out in 2001, I think, long before any of you were alive. But I was pumped. How many of you have seen this movie? All right, some of you. I know some of you aren't Star Wars fans, and that's okay. Let me give you a brief synopsis of what is happening here in this moment at the end of the movie. This little kid right here is Anakin Skywalker. He becomes Darth Vader. Hopefully you all know who Darth Vader is. He's like the big bad guy in the original Star Wars movies. This guy is Anakin Skywalker. He becomes Darth Vader. This guy is Senator Palpatine, who is the Emperor in the original Star Wars movies. Like the big bad guy that controls basically Darth Vader. Now, the original movies share the story of how Anakin became Darth Vader. And at the end of the first movie, this guy who becomes the Emperor, or is the Emperor, goes to Anakin and says, "We will watch your career with great interest." And in that moment, you see this little boy look up to this emperor, not emperor at that time, senator, and you can see him just excited that this guy is giving him attention. And in that moment, like, I know the future. I've seen the original movies. I know this guy becomes Darth Vader. But in that moment, I just wanted to scream, no, 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 stop. Don't invite him in. Don't give him influence in your life. Don't let him turn you to the dark side. Stay with the Jedis. But of course, we all know he does invite him in. He does allow him to influence his life and his future. He does become Darth Vader. And I wonder how often people are in our lives and we have these opportunities. I think it's more often than we think. Where we have people and we have the opportunity to say, you know what, dude, I love you, and I'll be kind to you, and I'm not going to confront you, I'm not going to fight with you, I'm not going to argue with you, I'm not going to say anything that's going to make you think that, you know, that I hate you, but I'm not going to give you influence. And how we have the opportunity to protect ourselves in those moments. Again, I want to say this because I think this is really, really important. These circles are not about cutting people out. It's about intentionally inviting certain people into an area of more influence in your lives. It's about intentionally inviting people into a deeper level of relationship with you. It's not about cutting people out. And some people will stay on the outside circle, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to hate the people in the outside circle. We don't have to be mean to the people in the outside circle. We can still love those people. They're just not going to be invited into the inner circles of our friendships. And so we work on ourselves, we understand ourselves, understand our emotions, we observe how people behave, and people that behave in such a way that we think, yeah, you know what? I think I want to invite them into a deeper relationship. I think I want to be better friends with this person. We intentionally invite them in. We start spending more time with them. We start hanging out with them. And this is this next circle that begins to form. And in this next circle, it gives us another opportunity to observe on a deeper level and be more consciously aware of how people are treated by this person. The more you hang out with a person, you are going to get to know them better. You're going to get to see how they treat their friends, the types of jokes they make, how they treat you as a person, how they care about the things that you care about, how they care about your stuff, how they care about your time, how they care about your energy. You're going to get to observe all of this on a deeper level. And your goal at this moment in this second circle right here is to be consciously aware of how they are behaving. This is what I like to consider people that I would hang out in groups with. People that, like there's 10 of us hanging out and bowling or going to the movies or whatever we may be doing. And I'll hang out in this big group. But some of those people, after observing how they treat me and how they treat others, I will invite into another circle. Some of those people, they're just going to be group friends. And again, that's okay. I'm not cutting them out. I'm simply saying, all right, well, I'm just going to be selective in who I invite in closer because I've seen the way that people treat other people. And I only want people close to me that are going to treat me and treat the people that I care about and treat the people around me with love and respect. That's who I want close to me. People that express the love of Jesus in a very real way. And so we observe consciously, we're consciously aware of how they behave. And then we may invite some people in closer. We may have best friends. We have people that we do things with one-on-one. And this is where things can get really difficult, but this is where it's really important. Because the next step is you watch how they handle conflict. And you personally handle conflict with them in a healthy way. We are not fans of conflict, are we? I mean, let's be honest. If you are anything like me, this is just my personality. I will people please to make sure that I don't have conflict with people. When conflict does arise, I may tend to ignore it or brush it under the rug. And then if I need to do something about it, we tend to maybe address it, but address it quickly and try to get it over with as quickly as possible. And we may talk about it with other people instead of going to the person. And we handle conflict in our culture, man, in such a horrible way, but it's such a vital part of healthy friendships and healthy relationships. Because how conflict is handled is a great indicator of who can be trusted. How conflict is handled is a great indicator of who can be trusted in a very real way in our lives. And it's important for our relationships and our friendships. So real quickly, I know I've been talking for a long time, so I'm going to go through this real quick. But Jesus talks about conflict. Jesus talks about the best way to handle conflict among the people that are closest to us. In Matthew chapter 18, he's talking to his disciples. He's talking to the people that are closest to him. And he says this in Matthew chapter 18, verse 15. If your brother or sister sins against you, go and correct them when you are alone together. If they listen, then you've won over your brother or sister. I love this because Jesus does not say go talk to your friends about it. Jesus says go to the person alone, together, talk to them. Talk to them about how you're feeling. Talk to them about what happened. Be calm, be clear in your communication. The implication is that this is a conversation, not an explosion. We compose our thoughts. We use statements that say, listen, when you said that joke to me, it made me feel really unvalued in our relationship. Now, that is totally different than going to someone and being like, dude, you're such a jerk, right? Because if someone comes to me and they're like, CJ, you are a jerk, I'm going to be like, okay. But if they come to me and they're like Peyton, if you came to me and you're like, dude, CJ at Open Gym, man, I know you were busy, but I tried to talk to you, completely ignored me and made me feel awful about myself. Man, I'm going to be like, dude, Peyton, I'm so sorry, man. Like, what can I do to make it better? I love you. I care about you. Like, totally different conversation. And so often we explode. But when we're in touch with our emotions, when we understand ourselves, and we can calmly go to the person and be like, listen, here's how this made me feel, then we get this opportunity. Now, this can go one of two ways. The person can respond and be like, dude, I love you, I'm so sorry. And you've won over a brother or sister. Your relationship has grown deeper. You've done great things, and you can trust that person. Or the person is like, dude, whatever, I don't care about your feelings. And then you know, okay, they might need to move to an outer circle. We're not cutting them out of our lives fully. We're just saying, all right, I'm just going to put a little bit of distance there. You're just going to have a little bit less influence in my life because I'm going to be intentional about who is in my life, who has influence over me, who can speak into my heart. And I only want people speaking into my heart and into my life that are loving and kind. And we do that intentionally. This is where relationships grow. Now, what happens if they don't listen? Jesus goes on to tell us what happens if they don't listen. He says, but if they won't listen, take with you one or two others, so that every word may be established by one or two or three witnesses. So if you're like, dude, I do care about this friendship. I do want this to work. Like, I don't necessarily want to put space. You can gather a couple friends and trusted people, and it won't be like an ambush. It'll just be like, hey, we agree. Like, this is something that needs adjusted. Like, we all feel this way. That is the appropriate time to begin going to other people. But only a couple, and only trusted people, and only people that care about you and care about the person, and then you go together. And then Jesus says, if they still won't listen, go to the church. Now, at that point, the church was like the central hub of their livelihood. It was the friendship circle in general. And you may have to explain to your friends at that point and be like, listen, I'm not comfortable spending time with this person. In a very calm way, because I'm going to be intentional about who speaks into my life. And Jesus was very clear about conflict. We should take action, and we should handle conflict in an appropriate way. All right, last thing. We have a new phrase at our house. Luna, who was here earlier, and Clark, they tend to have a lot of conflict. They are, I think they get along pretty well here at Worship Uncoiled, but at home, they tend to have a lot of conflict. And so we have a new phrase at our house. We tell them, don't burn down the house. Because here's the truth. Conflict is a lot like fire. If you handle conflict in the right way, then this fire will bring light and warmth and a glow to your relationship. It will bring you deeper in connection with each other. But if we handle conflict the wrong way, if we explode, if we lash out, then this fire can be dangerous. It can be devastating. It can destroy. It can burn down the house. And so as we face conflict, our new phrase, and maybe this will be helpful to you, is simply this: don't burn down the house. Again, this is where we are in touch with our emotions. We are in touch with who we are, and we communicate clearly with the other person. Because here's the truth. We want your relationships with your friends, with your family, with the people around you to be filled with light and warmth and growth. And these friendship circles and handling conflict allows you to bring people into your life that are just that. They bring light and warmth and growth to you. And so here's the practical challenge. This week, as you face conflict, know yourself, understand your emotions, approach people the right way. And again, begin looking at these friendship circles. Are the people that you've invited in people that are bringing warmth and growth and life to your light? Because we want you to have the best friendships and relationships that you possibly can. Let me pray for you. God, thank you.